Mrs. Barra, Ms. Fletcher Mickens, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Washington, Mr. Crawford, Mrs. Orso, Mrs. Dugas. Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Okay, Mr. President, can I ask Mr. Shannon, are we getting reasons why our people are leaving?
We do create an exit report. That exit report is revising according to our strategic plans. We're waiting for our committee to get together, but I do make contact with most of them, see what's going on. A lot of them are transferred into other areas at other districts because other districts are having the same issues with which we're having, which is staffing issues. So there are openings either closer to home or some of these districts that unfortunately do pay more. They're jumping lines to go make more money. So that is also some of the cases, but we're doing our best as we can to fill the positions as they leave. We are caught in that little window right now where it's really tough to find someone once someone leaves. But again, some of the job fairs are coming up, so we plan on replacing those people as soon as we can.
Where are we at right now in the level of paying our teachers with surrounding parishes? Are we at
Compared with the region, we're actually at level, a little bit above level. In new teacher pay, in ending pay, we're actually above. But again, it's very hard to compete with Ascension, St. James, and St. Charles because they work on the river. So those is probably about a $5,000 to $6,000 difference. But again, you're not going to compete with that just because your incoming money is just not there. So, but the starting pay currently, since our raise, is $42,200. Which last year was $41,000. So you're looking at almost a $1,200 increase with the board approved with the state raises and what y'all gave over last year, plus the retention stipend for those people that came in, that stayed with us of last year, received a $1,200 stipend. So they really received $1,200 plus another, they saved $2,400 over the last 12 months of the difference. So hopefully we can continue that in the future, but again, it's what we have to offer.
Mr. Clemo, could you speak to our step increase? Because I want to make sure the board and everyone.
And the reason why I said that is some of the surrounding parishes were starting above us, but that no longer exists. So like compared to St. Mary, St. Lafourche, Terrebonne, the people that we equate ourselves with, we're about level. But our step increase is about $665. Does that sound right? Yeah, $635. So, but the surrounding parishes step increases are like $300 and $400. So sometimes, the younger teachers coming out of college do not take into account that step increase, that they'll get to a higher range faster if they stay in the parish. So that's just about educating the new teachers coming in, that our step increase is probably doubled what St. Mary, Lafourche, Terrebonne Parish is in the thing. But again, at one time we were below them. Right now we're actually at them or a little bit above what their starting pay is. Yes.
With the step increases, our teachers pull away from the other parishes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct. So, I'll give you an example. But the issue that you face in those things is by the time they get to realize that, they kind of invested in a parish's insurance, and it's very tough to pull those veterans out of those staffing positions. Prime example is myself. I have 17 years in this parish. So, I'm not going to go work for Lafourche for the same amount of money or even $2,000 or $3,000 more because I'm going to lose my insurance vested it for the rest of my career or the rest of my life. So again, it's very difficult to do that. So, but again, it's about putting out, and that's one of the things that we're tasked with the strategic plan that we're presenting to y'all is how do we get that information out to these young teachers to realize that, hey, yeah, we're at the same level, but you will move up faster with us. Our insurance is X, which we have actually excellent insurance. So is address the insurance, and along with when you retire, you'll retire at a higher rate. So it's a matter of just getting that information out.
So what do we do right now to replace all these people that just left?
Well, right now we're doing the best we can as far as pulling people in. We do have sometimes it's rearranging schedules, unfortunately. Moving teachers around to try to fill these gaps. And right now, we're just seeking out teachers as they come along and trying to interview them.
Because I know those, I'm sorry, Tony. I know the kids that are in block scheduling right now, when the teacher's not there, they spending, 3 hours in one class? And a lot of them, it's not working out.
Yeah, but the issues right now at the high school, it happens to be at one of the primary schools that we're trying to address right now with the changes and stuff like that. So, but we're working with that principal to address those concerns.
So are we finding it's new teachers or teachers that have been in the system? That
It's the
are
younger
leaving?
teachers right now that are moving because they have no vested insurance. Our veteran teachers very seldom leave at all. So anybody who's been working for 10 years to 25 years never ever really leave. It's very seldom it happens that they leave, but it's the teacher that's from 0 to 5 sometimes moves. The last couple ones, when we lost, the last 3 you see was to Ascension and St. James. And when they talk about more money, it's very hard to combat a $6,000 or $7,000 raise in that issue. So you can see why they do it. But again, it's just a matter of just having those conversations.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
Mr. Claiborne, before you go, could you?
Oh, sorry.
I feel like I ought to raise my hand. The question I have is the new hires and the resignations. What's the time frame? Is that since the beginning of the year?
No, that's
or the
in
last month? Or?
that's since the last time that I gave you a report. Every time, every time you get a
So
new
this is
one,
1 month.
that's just, well,
1
that's
month
2
worth
weeks.
of resignations
That's every
and
2
hires.
weeks. So every 2 weeks you'll get a new report.
Oh,
So
this many people in
on
2
November
weeks?
3rd, you'll get a new report with new resignations and new hires. And hopefully by November 3rd, those resignations you see, I will have filled by that time. Yes, as fast as we can get them, to be honest with you. I'm hoping Nickel State has a recruitment retention fair, which is a job fair that's coming on the 9th. I plan on offering people positions on the spot at that time. So, but again, as a presentation, back 15, 20 years ago, as I said, the local university used to put out 200 applicants. If we see 30, but if you take 30 and you divide it by the surrounding parishes, it leaves very few teachers for the classroom. It just happens to be a national pandemic of teachers not coming in the classroom. It's just not an Assumption Parish issue. It is really a national issue. And let me just say this, the state is such a national issue that the state department itself has a recruitment and retention committee trying to do the exact same that we do is recruitment of teachers, retention of teachers, professional development of teachers, and how do you keep people in there? And they're thinking of other avenues. So that's what we're trying to do.
Off the top of your head, ballpark figure, since the beginning of the year is 3 times this, or I mean, is it like 15 teachers have left, or 20, or 30?
Off the top of my head, I mean, we've probably had an exit of 7, 8 teachers, I would think. I mean, that have coming in, but we've hired some too. I mean, so it's always been a revolving door. It just
No,
happens
I
to be a
know
little
that.
bit more now. And listen, we've been really lucky in this parish. I want to honestly tell you this. You know, we have maintained about our certification rate has been maintained between 94 and 96. I mean, 94 and 95% of your teachers in this district are certified, have either a TAT, PL, at level 1, they have a certificate. The rate of people who don't even have a certificate or getting into a program is very, very small. So again, it's just about we having to look at other avenues to keep teachers in the classroom. And again, that's going to be the state. This is not going to be an Assumption Parish, where we have to find people that have degrees, that are struggling to find jobs, bring them in there, and teach them how to be teachers. So again, it's something that we've always done since I've been here. Some of the other districts are struggling with that because they've never had to do that before. But what I can tell you right now is that communications with other HR directors in St. James, Ascension Parish, they're really struggling because they are having the same issues that we're having today. Okay?
Mr.
I have a question. The retired
Don't go nowhere.
teachers that want to come back, is that,
we-
how does?
It all depends on when they retired, Ms. Electa. You know what I mean? So we have some veteran retirees that have been working that don't have an earnings limit. We have some retirees that come back that can work up to 25%. The new retirees, though, have different rules. So sometimes they got to give up, they got to forfeit their retirement to sometimes come back. So we did go out for critical shortage, but sometimes those people that want those jobs would have to default their retirement, and no one's going to do that. So, you know, the State Department, I'm going to talk about the retirement system, is making it very difficult with the laws that are from the legislature for retired teachers to come back and be in the classroom. They're not making it easy for anyone. So we're trying to address that through an association, and I'm assuming the Superintendent's Association also.
That is true.
So we, you know, through the HR Association and through the Superintendent Association, we're trying to address that with your legislature, where we go to Mr. Ed Price or go to someone else that's in there and say, hey, look, we need some relief here of trying to get people in. So, but again, that is just that's more of a rules issue, or a legislature problem, than we have just an issue. But we are trying to find people that way too.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, because even calling a sub the other day, she told me she's a retired teacher, and she said, I can't work any more than 54 days, so I'll have to forfeit my retirement. So,
Mr. Shannon, are you in charge of the list of how many teachers are being absent from school also?
Yes, and
give
we
us a
are
report
addressing
on
that with the principals as we talk about it, to make sure that they stay on top of those requirements
Can
of
we get
coming
a
in.
report on that?
We are, listen, if you go around anywhere right now, there's a help wanted sign everywhere you go. I drive by one right here all the time. So we're really even having trouble finding people to substitute now to go into the things, because, you know, it is a process to get them to substitute, but as fast as they could come in, you know, I just gave, you know, my secretary, Ms. Griffin, probably about 10 people that just applied, and trying to run them through as fast as we can to get them background check, fill out the paperwork. They still got to get paperwork sent off to the State Department to get approved through the State Department to come in. But we are working those as fast as we can too. But it's very tough. People are just, there's work out there, and people just sometimes don't want the work. So we do have it.
People don't want to work. You're right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clement.
I know it's a challenge, but, you know, let's just know that this challenge is not just confined here to Louisiana or something, and it's ubiquitous throughout the entire state of Louisiana, and it's the whole country, trying to find certified teachers. What was even more harder than I read something on the website, they have a shortage of bus drivers, right? Nationwide. Yeah, nationwide. So it's a challenge, guys, so let's just hope and pray that things get better in the future for us. Thanks, and policy and procedure, paragraph A, approve Assumption High School FFA, attend national convention in Indianapolis, Indiana. Need a motion? Motion by Ms. Zara, second by Mr. Myers. Question, comment? We have,
Yeah, we have Mr. David and several of our students, our members of FFA from Assumption High School. So at this time, Mr. David.
Okay. Thank you all for hearing us this afternoon. We're here just to seek permission to attend our National FFA Convention, which is actually next week. in Indianapolis. We understand there was a little procedural thing that we needed to do. In the years past, we've always gone. The only year we haven't gone was last year because of COVID, and that was because Nationals actually canceled the convention itself. So when we go, this is a opportunity for us to kind of show what FFA is all about on a national scale. We take tours of industry. For example, one of the tours we take is a place called Huber Farms in Kentucky, where it's a U-pick kind of thing, and the students get to actually go out and see apple trees growing and see grapevines and see, wine is made and different things in that area. So it's a real educational tour. When we get to actually go to the convention itself, we're part of the whole network of FFA throughout the country. There's over 65,000 FFA members from across the country that go, and they do from leadership things, leadership workshops. We do, our opening session has a lot of motivational speakers. There's a lot of opportunities for our students to go and just meet people from around the country, and they actually get to go to a career show that they can use and find, jobs or whatever careers that they might be interested in that may not be here in Louisiana, but they may be something that they might be interested in. We use it as a reward system. As our seniors, they get to go. They earn their way by participating throughout the 4 years of FFA, and this is the culmination of that. And then we also use it if we're competing and competing at a national level. And Sadie Phelps and I are both national judges for for a different competition. So we're heavily involved, and that's why we're asking permission to go.
Mr. Carlin,
Sir.
I'd just like to compliment you on this report. Very efficient. I understand it perfectly. So well done. I just wish everybody did it as well as you did. And I'd certainly like to compliment you and the FFA. And I'd also like to acknowledge that, when I was at Assumption, your program, I don't know how long you've been in it, but it's probably one of the
32
finest
years.
FFA programs in the entire state. And I think you deserve to be complimented.
Thank you.
And your students also.
Thank you.
In years past, haven't we awarded $50 per student to offset the cost whenever they travel out of state? I recall a couple of middle schools, they had a convention, if I'm not mistaken. A couple of middle schools, and we did make that award. They had a presentation for the first student, $50 per student. So the board is okay with that? Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Beaker, go ahead. Is this something we can look at putting back to afford that opportunity to our students to do things like this?
Yes, ma'am. Next fiscal year, we definitely could look into adding it, but at any point, the board can approve out-of-state travel.
Right.
So we just want to make sure that at any point, this actually can happen.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to see us revisit what we voted on before and come up with another plan so these kids can enjoy going to their conventions and doing what they, our students have not had quite an opportunity in a few years now. So I really want to see this turn over and see that our kids get to do more than what they've been doing.
I agree.
Thank you.
How many kids
Thank you,
are
Mr.
attending?
Carlino.
Thank y'all.
How many kids are attending?
I'm sorry?
How many?
How many kids?
We're going to have 5. One had to back out, but we have 5 going.
Okay.
We have 5 going.
Y'all have a safe trip.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Save me a turkey.
Got you. Thank y'all. Yes, sir.
I noticed from May 2019, we also awarded out-of-state travel to FFA in the same place, Indianapolis. That's the only place where it held every year?
Yes, it's been rotating for the last 20 years. Every 7 years, it would rotate between Louisville. It started out when y'all were in school. It was in Kansas City, Missouri. And then in 2000, it moved to Louisville, Kentucky. And then shortly after that, 7 years later, it went to Indianapolis, and it's been bouncing back and forth every 7 years. But now the permanent home is Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah, I just noticed that when I was looking back over.
Yes, sir.
Some past agendas when we approved that back in the past.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. We appreciate it.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank y'all so much.
Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
If I could just say this, if y'all finished, when y'all finish tonight, if y'all want to come get some beef stew, we have a meeting next door, so y'all are welcome to come eat.
Should have told us that before the vote.
Good evening. Our first quarter budget update for the quarter ending September 30th, 2021 is attached to your agenda item. The format is the same for the general fund budget. The first column shows the original budget that you adopted back in June. Our revenues and expenses through 9/30, excuse that typo, it should be 9/30/2021, and then a percent compared to budget. In the first quarter, we look for our percent to be about 25%. If we look at our collections, our regular collections that includes sales tax and property taxes is only at 4%. But if you're aware of when we receive our funding, most of that is sales tax because property taxes we don't get until December and January. Our local revenues is at 25%, which is standard, and our state revenues is a little under 25%, which is our MFPs. Federal revenues and transfers in, we normally get that at the end of the year. So we'll see that in the third quarter update. So our total revenues compared to budget is at a little under 16%. And our expenses, we like to see those at 25%. Our instructional expenses are normally under 25% because most of their expenses start in August. The first payroll for non-12-month people is August, so they're a little bit behind. When we look at the higher ones, the ones that are above 25%, the one that stand out is general administration. We pay our property insurance in July when Tommy and them come and present. We have to issue that check, so that's a large check that goes out right in the first month of the fiscal year. So that's larger. And our operations and maintenance is at 37%, a lot over what we expect, but as we know, they buy a lot of their supplies at the beginning of the year that last throughout the whole year, so we'll be monitoring that. Same thing with the central services is at about 34%. That's most of that is our IT supplies, materials and supplies, and a lot of that is purchased at the beginning of the year, but it'll level off at the end of the year. However, overall, our total expenditures is of 20%. Compared to our budget, so we're fine with that. For the first quarter, we are running a deficit of about $1.6 million. That will level off once we get the property taxes back at mid-year. So there is nothing really to be alarmed about. There is one thing, Shannon heard me yell and do a little cheer today as I was doing this report. There is one thing when you look at the 70% instructional percentage, we're normally at 70.6, 70.86. We're at 73.13. So kudos to our administrative team. They are putting the money to do the impact in the classroom, in the instruction. Although as soon as I did that cheer, Shannon came running and said, so that means we can buy other things. I said, no, sir. We're putting it in, we're putting it where it belongs in instruction in the classroom. So that is something that we're proud about in this report. So for the month of September, we processed a total of 1,813 returns. Our collections was $954,564.79. That was a 7% increase. The school board received $474,789.10. Our 92 bond fund received $94,953.44. Our delinquent rate for the month was 7%. We didn't have audit revenues this month, but we did have a good bit of auto sales that totaled $229,266.48. Thank you.
Mr. Big,
This past September, me and Mr. Robinson attended a pre-available conference in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And as always, it's pretty fast-paced and very informative as always. So right at the close of the business, the LSD director there, Janie Pope, she handed me and Mr. Rob some information, and what she did, she handed me an email. She said, "This is what the email said. I'll read it to you. The LSD has been notified that Ms. Randall has been accepted as a presenter for the 2022 NSB Annual Convention in San Diego, California in April. And she was the only, and she highlighted bold printed only, Louisiana presentation accepted out of 69 school districts. This is a huge honor. If there's any information that you need regarding the 2022 NSB annual conference, please do not hesitate to call our office. She will also be recognized by the LSB Board of Directors and its officers at our annual conference in March this year. So I was appalled and not surprised when Janet hit me and Mr. Rob up with this information. And I think, what made it so intriguing was the fact that 69 school districts throughout the entire state of Louisiana. And look, we be talking about a small rural Assumption Parish when you compare to the largest school district like the Orleans, the Jefferson, the East Baton Rouge, the Cattle, and Acadia, and all those, and yet they selected Assumption Parish. So I think that really put us on the national scale with the big guys. And several of us have been on NSB conference all around this country, and look, I mean, I've seen some, singers, songwriters, poets, a lot of actors, TV personalities, a lot of folks, retired Army generals, and I'm even gonna share that stage with them, and that's appalling, and it's very rewarding and satisfying and gratifying to see that one of our own is gonna be up there on the national stage. My take.
Yes, congratulations, Ms. Randall.
Well, I found out and I did share it with my superintendent, and when I did share it, I didn't expect for it to be shared among the administration or the board. Was not at all trying to put the board in any financial hardship for something that, I accepted personally. Although I'll be representing Assumption Parish School District, I was willing to take on the financial burden, of attending on my own. So, if this does pass, I do appreciate the support. Always have felt supported by all the superintendents that I've worked under in the board, so thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anya, would you share the cost with us?
I don't know, because I haven't started researching, it just came
All
out.
right, I think what it is, they haven't opened up registration. No kind of like when LSD opened up registration for us, then she will send Melissa, let us know that it's time for registration right now. So that will take place till in April next year, and we'll be there. And I don't know where LSD is going to be March next year, but it probably won't be till after registration's open up.
So the trip is scheduled for April of next year? Could we maybe table it till we find out what it's gonna cost, how long she's gonna be gone? I mean, we don't have to vote on it tonight, do we?
No, historically, and I share this with you, Duncan. Historically, whenever this would come up before the board, this board would never act, but whenever our employees came up to ask us to do something like this, we approved it right then and there. I told you back in May 15, 2019, when we had that agenda, and there was 3 items came before this board. One was the FFA convention in Indianapolis. The second one was junior ROTC that was held in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And the third was to send an alternative program coordinator to a sellers training out in Kansas City, Missouri. That was called in November of that same year, we approved out-of-state travel for employees to attend an educator rising program. And again, the following 2 months later, in February of 2020, the board also approved out-of-state travel for a CEP coordinator to attend a national conference in Nashville, Tennessee. Remember what I said earlier, that we had several middle schools that went on to attend data convention out of the state. I recall twice the Peter Park group won the national data conference when they went on, and also one time at the Beverly Smith. So this is something that we've done. We felt that our employees and our students have truly earned that, and that's why we approved it on it.
I'm not against it. Like Mr. Carlino, his trip is in 5 days. This one's in 6 months. I mean, in 6 months, we might be able to have a little bit more information. I mean, I don't know. It just,
If you wanna put that in the form of a motion to table it, please do so.
but I don't know when to table it until. I mean, I want to make sure we have enough time. But before we do this, let me ask Mr. Bartholomew a question. From that communique you sent us, the LSBA and the National School Board Association have broken ties. Either they kicked us out or we quit. And according to what you sent us, we can no longer attend an NSBA Equity Symposium, whatever that is. I guess I'm glad we can. We can't attend an NSBA Advocacy Institute. We can't attend an NSBA annual conference. How can we attend this one?
That is for LSD school board members. Anya is not part of that.
I misunderstood because I thought it said Assumption Parish too.
If the board of directors opted not to put LSBA into the NSBA, then that would refer to the 643 elected school board members in the state of Louisiana, and 69 districts throughout the state of Louisiana. That has to do with administrators. I told you I've attended at least 8 NSBA conferences, and none of those folks that attend, those presenters or facilitators, whatever you want to call them, were from local school boards. They're from all over the country, really.
So, I mean, like teachers, administrators, we can still go to the symposiums and advocacy institutes?
That's based on the premises if LSBA withdraw membership from NSBA. But again, reiterate, that does not affect people like Anya, because she's not part of LSBA, but if they withdraw some membership from NSBA or not.
Yeah. See, I don't know. I just figured Assumption Parish was part of the LSBA.
LSBA, yeah, we are.
Oh.
All 643 elected school board members of Assumption.
Oh, but it's just school board members. It's not teachers and administrators and things like that.
Mr. B, is it possible that we look at this policy and offer it to who wants to go, instead of everybody coming up and begging us every time? Doesn't pay us to have policy if we keep veering off.
Yeah, we definitely could look at the policy and make adjustments. That way we don't have everyone coming up.
It's more of a budget amendment, not really a policy. When we remove all out-of-state travel allowance out of the budget. So the current budget doesn't have an allowance for out-of-state travel. So that's why the board is in charge of the salary schedule and the budget. So that's why, we can do a budget revision. Mid-year, we can do a budget revision and add money in the budget and have you all adopt a new budget that includes that. But our current budget doesn't include anything for out-of-state travel, which is why every time the board has.
Right. But can we look at that? Can that be a possibility?
Can we be a possibility?
And, at the beginning of the year, when we got ready to attend that LSBA conference, report, that was not budgeted to, right, Anya, for LSBA, to pay for the room and board. Only for the conference registration. And we came back, after I talked to Mr. B, talked to you, we came back and amended the budget. And that's what we did. So it's up to the board's discretion.
That's why I asked that we revisit the traveling for our school board members, our administrators, and come up with a new policy of what we really want to allow for people to wherever they want to go. I mean, this is a great honor, and she will be representing us. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with it, and I think that she represents all of us, and, you know, she takes care of all of us. So, I mean, everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I'll talk to my finance team, and we'll come back if the board would like to add a revision and add that line item back in the budget. We'll do it. That's not a problem, if that's what the board desires.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comment? Hearing none, those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, motion carried. Next, on the facilities and ground approved Assumption High School two-story building renovation project, need a motion? Motion? Motion by Mr. Robbins, second by Mr. Myers. Joseph?
Yes, I apologize. I wasn't able to make the last meeting where this was presented. I had a representative from my office here. This is to change the design of the exterior renovation to the two-story building at the high school. Previously, when this project was approved, it was just to put a coating system on the exterior to reseal the building. After much time has passed, we've noted that there is water infiltration into the building, and there is some interior damage as well as rotten substrate underneath the exterior panels. So there.
How much damage we had there?
I don't know exactly because there's no way to know that without pulling all of the
How did you
exterior.
get an estimate on that if you don't know exactly how much?
No, because the estimate we figured on was pulling all of the exterior concrete board off. That's how we're, in other words, if we're going to go to a brick exterior, which was requested that we provide an estimate on possibly bricking in lieu of putting a coating system or changing the hardy board, well, obviously, if we're going to brick, we're going to remove all of the hardy board, and that's how we came across the estimate.
On the whole building?
Yes, ma'am.
What if it wouldn't have damage behind it? Why would we remove all of it? If there's no damage behind it, why would we remove all of it?
You're only going to remove it down to the substrate because we would have to do that to install a brick anyway. For a brick exterior or brick veneer, you have what's called a wall tie, and then there's an air gap space in there. So to make that air gap space, which is required to put the brick, we would remove the hardy board down to the substrate. At that point, we would be able to see that wooden substrate or that plywood substrate that's underneath there, and at that point we'd be able to replace whatever is damaged. But until we remove all of that, we won't know how many sheets are damaged.
So it's possible they wouldn't all be damaged?
I don't suspect that they are all damaged. I don't suspect that they are all damaged, but at the price of plywood and everything right now, I don't want to come to you and tell you, look, it's all perfect. I know that they're obviously, because we have found some water infiltration and we can see where the sheetrock on the interior has gotten wet, we are speculating that there is some damage there because it is obviously gotten past our vapor barrier. And that's probably a lot to do with storms and, you know, hurricanes and everything else that building has withstood. To tell you how much is done, that would be a huge guess on our part.
I understand that, but you're giving us an estimate of $20,000 to remove the board, and $40,000 to tie wrap, so that's $60,000. So are you saying that it's possible that we won't have to be spending $60,000?
It is very possible. It is very possible. That's why this is an estimate. This is an estimate, and I'm giving you the worst case scenario. You know, and we do that with every job that we give you. We have to give you the worst case scenario because we don't. There are certain things that are covered up that we're not going to know. until we uncover it. It is highly possible that it could come in less, absolutely. Do I want to tell you that without taking that board off and looking at it? No. I'd rather tell you, look, this is what you're looking at as a worst-case scenario, and we're going to put it out to bids, and then we're going to know. And it's same thing we do with your roofs. We bid the substrate of your roofs by the sheet. That way, you only pay for what's damaged once it's uncovered. Same scenario here. If we get under there and it's only 10 sheets of plywood, then this is going to come way down. But without pulling that hardy board off, which I have to do to install a brick veneer in the first place, I don't know that. And so that would be bid by the sheet, and you're correct. That price would absolutely come down. Another thing that added a significant amount of cost to this is you'll notice we are now talking about replacing all of the AC units. That's $120,000. You have 12 units there. Yes, ma'am.
I understand that. Go ahead, I'll come back to what
And one of the things that we wanted to bring, conservative estimates right now, because the existing AC units that you have on that building are 30-plus years old, and they're what they call 6 to 8 SEER units. Today, that unit would be replaced with what's called an 18 SEER unit. The energy cost savings between the two is conservatively right now 60%. In other words, by just changing the AC units, you're going to use 60% less electricity than you're using now. So we're hoping that we are going to not only cut your electric bill in half, we're hoping to cut it significantly down. In addition to that, bricking the building also adds about a 50% R value factor to additional insulation because you have that air gap. So we're talking about possibly cutting the electric bill on this building to a quarter of what it is today. And that's just, is that enough money to pay for this job? Obviously not, because you're talking about, your electric bill on that building, if I had to guess, is probably running you somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 a month during your hotter months, because you're running 12 AC units and you got a lot of lights. You're looking at a 20,000 square foot building. Am I going to be able to cut that in half? Absolutely. Just by changing the AC units, I think we'll cut it in half, and then we're going to probably cut it another 20 to 30% with the insulation of the brick. 8,000 square foot that you see on there is not the square footage of the building. That's the square footage of the vertical walls where the brick would be installed. You do have some brick on the building. There are small sections on the sides that are bricked, as well as the front face and portions of the rear have brick as well already. And we would simply go in and be matching that.
Listen,
Yes, sir.
I really don't know how this works. I'm new at it, but from what I understand, what you gave us was like your estimate.
Correct.
Best guess, worst case, whatever, of what you think it should cost. Now, someone puts it out for public bid,
Yes, sir.
and then you're gonna advise us?
Yes.
Like, are we obligated to take
No, sir.
the lowest bid?
No, sir.
Okay.
You're obligated to take the lowest bidder, but you're not obligated to accept the bid. If the lowest bidder comes in and let's say, we're telling you your total cost here is $588, and that low bid comes in at $650, you're over budget, you can simply reject all bids.
Well, I mean, you have a lot of experience with some companies that probably, if they're the lowest bid, we don't want them anyway.
Correct. And at that point, there are certain criteria that they have to meet. I mean, they have to be licensed, they have to be bonded, they have to be able to provide 100% performance and payment bond. So on a $500,000 job, you're not going to get a fly-by-night company.
Yeah. Well,
You are obligated to take the lowest responsible bidder. In other words, that if he turns in the low price and it's within budget that you accept, then, and he is responsible, meaning he meets the criteria, has the experience levels, has the necessary bonding and so forth, then yes, you do have to go with that low bidder. However, if it comes in over budget, or if there's an unforeseen condition, let's say tomorrow, you get hit with something and you don't have the funds necessarily to do this project, then you have grounds. You can reject all bids and just basically pull the project back.
You know, I was just wondering, I mean, every now and then when I fly, I worry that I'm on a plane that was built by the lowest bidder. I mean, it scares me. And,
Yeah.
but I just didn't know how it works, but you're gonna make a recommendation.
Yes, once,
Oh,
once,
okay, good, 'cause
if the
I don't know
project
enough
is,
about it to, you know.
yes,
The original was to reseal
was basically a paint system, yes.
the plate. So you guys weren't gonna remove and see what the damage was?
There was, at the time, you gotta realize, when we first gave those initial estimates, that was at the beginning of the bond issue. I'd have to go back and look at the year, but several years, that was probably close to 5 years ago, if I had to guess.
I guess the crux of the matter is this. If we go back to what we have now, okay,
Mhm.
and do we replace what does that do with the AC units? They stay the same?
The AC, if you don't, I mean, obviously, if you choose not to change the AC units, the AC units still work that are there, but they are,
The AC units can be different, you know, it's not mutually exclusive with bricks.
no,
It's not bricks AC unit,
no.
go back when we got
No.
no AC unit.
No, it was brought up to change the AC units if we were thinking about going to the brick, and here's the reason why. Because if we're gonna go to the brick, we're gonna take all of and I know you all are familiar with the building, but if you look at the outside, you've got ductwork, you've got conduits, exposed wiring, everything on that building was run on the exterior of the walls. If we're gonna put a brick, we're seeing an opportunity here where we can actually clean it up and put all of that inside the wall, which is normal. If you're going to new construction, you would put all those conduits, ductwork, and so forth inside the wall. So in addition to that, you're gonna get a much cleaner look to the building. When you see the outside of the building, it's gonna look like a brick building with the windows. You're not gonna see ductwork and hanging wires and things of that nature. So in there, we are doing a lot of cleanup that if we were just coating the building, we wouldn't be able to do.
So with barring aesthetics, we're still looking at a big difference in certain energies, maintenance.
Correct.
Maintenance, the whole nine.
Correct.
But also, although we don't go with bricks, we will still put the new air conditioners and
Yes.
come up with another wall.
Yes,
It's
yes,
not
ma'am.
that you have to have bricks.
No, you don't. You're
Yeah.
not, I'm not saying that.
And let me explain this. When we asked, and I want to make sure we recap how we even got to the brick point, because I think that's where it's getting lost at. We asked Joseph come up with several different options, and we gave him 3 tasks. What'll happen if we just paint it? What'll happen if we replaced it what we got? And what'll happen if we brick it? So we asked him for 3 different cost estimates. So this wasn't a Joseph decision. This was kind of a group decision between Mr. Pathali, myself, Dwayne, Joseph, looking with Brent, having a discussion about how do we get the biggest bang for our buck with the money and not having to revisit this and it's turning into a maintenance nightmare later on. And I guess where we come in with is even if you go back to do that, the estimated cost was somewhere around $250,000 to replace what you got today. That means that in another 10 years, you will have to go back and do the exact same thing again
Why would you?
because
Why
the
10
lifespan of that product is 10 to 15 years.
Not if it doesn't get rain and water in between the
The
stucco and
product
You
is
will not
only
have that
warranty for
problem.
10 to 15
You have
years.
stuff on your house?
Yes, so the
Has it
answer is I
lasted
had it
longer than
before,
10
and it
years?
actually over time, you have to go back and patch it, or if there's some damage, you have to replace it. I guess my point is that what we were trying to do is, since it is the satellite school of the district, was to do a one and done project where we don't have a maintenance where we have to go every other year and clean the stucco, because that's another thing. Or we have to go back and repaint the stucco, because that's a financial cost you got to take on that will be multiplied every other year to consistently keep up the building, along with aging air conditioned systems. And we have an HVAC system. So out of the budget, that money, which is probably about $150,000, will not be coming out of bond
I
money.
understand
I'm
that,
just saying,
you're
but will
still
come out of
looking at
different funding source.
$330,000 for bricks.
But it's a one and done thing for the lifetime
That's
of the
bricks.
building. So
But it's
I
a
guess my
lifetime
point
thing.
is the
It's gonna be
lifetime of the
forever.
building that requires no maintenance in the long run. So I guess the point is, if you even had to go back, because it is possible that the product will get damaged, because that's what happens with these buildings with stucco or metal buildings, is when you come back is the cost from, even let's just say 20 years from now, it won't be this board, but the next board in 20 years will have to go back and replace that product, and it's going to double the cost anyway, or triple the cost of that day. So I guess my point is, this board can make a financial decision to do a one-in-time thing that you will never have to touch again because it's brick. So that was our thing, was we're trying not to burden future boards with finances that we can address today. So I think that's where we were going with the brick situation and what was going on.
10 years, this board ain't gonna be here.
How
No,
old
no,
is the
it'll
building?
probably, nobody in this room will be alive.
How old is the building?
That current thing, I think, is only 15 years old. I mean, that last time.
That system is knocking right at 20,
Yeah.
20 plus years.
And your air conditioning systems, I actually doing, the air conditioning systems that I built in about 30, 35 years old.
They're the
So
original AC.
they're the original AC
I
for the
think the
building.
problem is here that I feel like we're taking a lot of money and putting it in one building. We have asked time and time again, every year, when can we have our buildings clean? When can we have our buildings painted? We never had the money. I just don't understand how I can justify spending $623,000 on a building when all our other buildings are so dilapidated. I mean, go to right here in the gym in Napoleonville. Look at the building. It can't be painted. It can't. I mean, really, stop and think about it. This is a lot of money when all of our schools are all in need. That's what I'm saying. And I understand what you're saying about
I'm
the
not
building.
disagreeing, but the buildings you're talking about are buildings that you have to maintain over time because they didn't
we
break
haven't
the
in
buildings
years. In
or they
years,
didn't
we
do the
haven't.
things that needed, that it was a one-time fix. So I guess my point is, you fix it one time, then you don't have to talk about the issues that you're having today, which is repaint a building, plaster falling off, or doing those things. If that building, which is the building you're talking about, would have been bricked from the beginning, we would not be having this discussion that it looks bad or it's poorly
If that
maintained.
building would have been bricked from the beginning.
But it wasn't, because
Well,
someone,
that's right,
I'm
these
assuming because
buildings
at some
wasn't either.
point in time, they made the decision, which is what you decide on, is, do I want to save money or do I want to do it right?
I
We're
want-
asking you to not
I
trying
want
to
all
save
our
money and to
systems
do it
look-
right.
I want all our schools to look good. That's my point. That's my point. I think all the schools need to be updated. And
But
I mean, if we're
I'm
gonna
not
spend it all
disagreeing
on-
with that, but in order for that to happen, then we have to continually start having the mindset that when we do projects, we do them one time and we fix them right the first time with the least amount of maintenance for future upkeep. And that's what we're asking you to do.
What are the other walls on this building made of? Same thing?
Same, it's all the same. Basically, you have three, I'm gonna call it skins on the building, okay? You have some brick on the front, and the rear, and then two small sections on the sides. Then on the second floor above, where some of the entrances are, there are some metal, flashing panels. And then, of course, you have the concrete board with the synthetic stucco, which is what we're talking about replacing.
So, but the whole exterior of the building has basically
Would
the
be
same
brick,
thing?
yes, yes. Now, obviously, the sections that are brick, we're gonna match that brick. We're not gonna take that brick off, because there's nothing wrong with that brick, it's in good shape.
My concern is we're gonna pay the $600,000 for the front. Next year, we come in, the left side of the building is ruined, so we pay $600,000
No,
again.
that's the whole building.
That's the whole building.
That's the whole building,
Yeah,
that's
that's the
all
whole
four
building.
sides.
The
Four sides,
600 is
yeah.
all four sides?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I thought it was just the front of the
No,
building.
ma'am, no, ma'am.
No.
No, you had asked me there's existing brick already on the front, we're not touching that. This estimate is to replace every portion of the building that is not currently brick. Which is about,
in the front.
which is about 80%. Yes, sir. Yes, also in here, we found, where it is joining to the inbuilt, where those, walkways and all are tying in, the flashings and so forth, those are metal, that's where that metal panel is. That has, or I guess over time, and I can't even tell you when that metal panel was probably put on when the building was originally built. It is failing, and so we're getting water infiltration over those canopies. That would have to be addressed either way, that whether you brick it or whether we change those out for new metal panels, we do need to address something, so that is also in this cost.
I feel like we only have one high school, and we have to start somewhere. You know, we have to start somewhere and start at the high school. Now, we all, at one time, we had a wish list. So, that's before you got here. Are we working on that wish list? Do everybody?
This
know
building
that?
was on that initial, I believe the list you're referring to is when we started looking at bond issues over the years, we had a list, we had a booklet that we had provided you with. It had probably 20-something projects in there, spread throughout the whole parish.
And she's right, by starting there, I mean,
we
the
started
high
at
school
high
benefits all the students of
Yes.
Assumption Parish, no matter what community they come from. And it is going to benefit them sooner or later, whether you're from Libertyville or Belrose or Napoleonville.
Well,
And-
we have to start somewhere. And to me, at the high school, we start there, then do where we have to go from each school, but at the high school, start there, if you want to do it right.
Yes, ma'am.
That's how I
But
see it.
Ms. Doris is correct in that we've got, you all have buildings everywhere that need that aesthetic, they need that extra upgrade to get to a better looking place. And I think that was one of the main reasons your administration approached me with looking at a brick option, because if you look at the front of the high school, from the front face of the high school, that is the only building that is not brick. We bricked, if you recall, you remember your breezeways. Those were bricked a few years ago. We bricked the M building, the N building we bricked. We also changed the substrate on the other building. So when you're looking at the front of the high school, that is the only building that's not brick. And I will try to get you a rendering at some point, but one of the things we're also looking at is when you look at the front of the high school right now, it says Assumption High School across the top of the cafeteria. Well, this is your main kind of flagship building in the front of the school, right over the Mustang. What we would like to do, and it's included in this, is to take that sign off and then put you a new sign, logo lighted on the front of this two-story building, and that's also in here. And so when we get into the design of that, we would get with the superintendent and members of the board and come up with a design logo that would put on the front of the building so that when people drive in front of the high school, they know it's Assumption High. And because if you go to any high school now, you see that. That's one of the things we've noted is that you really don't have a sign in front of the school other than a couple of letters. Yeah.
Is that we putting it out to the lowest bidder.
Mhm.
I'm never going to put anything out on my house to the lowest bidder. I'm going to go out and research and make sure I get the right contractor. Okay? But we don't have that luxury.
No.
Okay? So I just want, considering past projects, we've had the lowest bidder. We need to oversee this very closely.
Yes, ma'am.
Make sure that you're there checking it, make sure that Dwayne's there, make sure that it's done correctly. This is a lot of money.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not chump change.
Yes, ma'am.
So we need to make sure it's done correctly.
Yes.
Make sure the specs are specific,
And
and we
that's
don't have this issue that we had with our last project.
correct. And that's something, you're correct. We don't have the luxury of not taking the lowest responsible bidder, but we can tighten our specifications and make those specifications more stringent to hopefully ward off those, without calling anybody out, contractors that are not of the quality that you want. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes.
I can tell you, after the two hurricanes hit, St. Charles last year, one that hit,
Well, maybe we could put the project off and wait for the prices to come down, the inflation to come down. Yes, it will.
It's part of the reason it's up there.
Hearing none, those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
Melissa, roll call, please. Yes. Yes.
No.
Thank you, ma'am. Motion carries. Next, under comments and announcements, any other comments and announcements before we adjourn?
I want to show the board and our families our strategic plan video. We've been going to all of the schools, open houses, and we've been really meeting with our constituents. But we also, part of our strategic plan is making sure we promote the positive things that's going on in Assumption Parish. And I want to show that short video to you as well. Mr. Buggett?
Yes, sir. Good evening. On Friday, we reported 19 positive cases that is posted on the website, and we had 56 quarantine cases. And again, that includes staff, students as well. So as far as today, we are reporting 8 positive cases, and that is students, that's faculty and staff, and only 25 quarantine cases. So I really can't remember the last time I saw single digit in a positive column, so that's definitely good news. We'll continue to be persistent and to keep the numbers dropping. So definitely some good news to report.
It's a new day for Assumption Parish schools. It's here on our campuses that our many communities become one, where our visions become focused, our skills honed, and our greatest dreams for tomorrow are realized. It's here where we are committed to an Assumption for All mindset, to reach every student at every grade level in every school and make them a success story. To facilitate that mission, Assumption Parish Schools is committed to implementing a multifaceted strategic plan.
We surveyed over 450 stakeholders. This includes students, parents, teachers, school building level administrators, central office administrators, community leaders, business leaders. So we were able to survey and receive data, important data, from all of our stakeholders.
The plan has been ranked the #1 strategic plan in the state of Louisiana. It builds on existing academic strengths. It adopts a high-quality curriculum and measurements across all content areas, and it remains rooted in the parish's culture. Our strategic plan includes 6 building components. The first is to strengthen instruction across Assumption Parish.
In order for our students to get better, we're improving the instructional expertise and the leadership skills of our leaders and our teachers, because that's where it starts. Without improving our capabilities, then we're not going to get the results that we want out of students.
Better teachers create better learners, so we are reinvesting in professional development, giving our teachers better tools, and providing greater support with mentors and data-driven analysis. We are cultivating a safe, engaging, and inclusive culture at all our schools. We are setting better expectations for all our students and providing positive incentives for good decision-making. At the same time, we are increasing our resources to address mental health issues.
When we say Assumption for All, we have to make sure we're taking care of all of the aspects of the children, of the student, so that the social, emotional health and well-being of a child in Assumption Parish is just as important in providing them with a rigorous education.
We're trying to promote conflict resolution and restorative practices where students have an avenue to go to be able to speak out, having that safe, nurturing environment, trying to bring back that culture and climate within our schools and our district as a whole.
We are providing individualized academic support to better meet our student body's diverse needs. We know that one size does not fit all, So we are incorporating differentiated learning options at all levels and better equipping our teachers with learning tools that can be customized to each child.
In terms of curriculum and instruction, Assumption for All means meeting the needs of every single student, no matter the barriers we may face. It's meeting students where they are and growing them to where they need to be.
We are developing meaningful partnerships with our parents, extended families, and greater community. Assumption Parish's strength is its people, and we are empowering our children by making learning more relevant, more communal, and more valued.
They have that family feel where, again, everybody knows each other's kids. We know who's related to who, and even with the people that come out, we have probably about, I would say close to about 20% people traveling from outside into our parish. And we maintain that, and they stay here because of that reason, that relationship piece that sometimes is missing in some of the bigger districts that are not missing here.
People are our most valuable resource. That's why we're working harder than ever to attract and keep the best and brightest in our classrooms. Experienced, certified teachers produce strong students who can be successful. And finally, in all that we do, we are committed to creating an equitable environment where all our students can benefit from our efforts and invested resources. Greater access creates greater opportunities for success. We know that to be better, we must be better together.
We have to make sure that we diversify and we meet in each individual student needs. Just like our vision that we created, Assumption for All, our goal is to reach every student every day.